My name is Roselina Angel. I've been at the University of Maryland for 18 years, since 1998. And I've been a member of PSA for 31 years, since 1985. I grew up in Colombia, South America, in a town that is famous, not for the right reasons, which is called Medellin, but actually it's a beautiful town. They call it in Colombia the city of eternal spring, because it's the temperature is really nice all year round. It's gotten hotter as everything in the world has gotten hotter, but when I was growing up, it was perfect environment. I grew up in a family of 7 kids, traveled a lot with my parents, had a good childhood. I did a lot of sports, so I was a competitive swimmer. Not a great student as I was growing up, preferred the outdoors and preferred spend a lot of time in the swimming pool, actually. I was a long-distance swimmer. And long-distance swimmers tend to be short-lived in swimming, especially for women. So I think I started swimming competitively when I was 8 years old, and I quit when I was 15, almost 16. It was an interesting experience. It dates me when I tell you what Olympics I went to, but I went to the Munich Olympics in 1972, so I was 12 years old at the time. And it was an amazing experience. I had been to Pan American Games and World Games before, but the Olympics was just a different experience. The Colombian team the swimming team was in Munich for a month before the Olympics started. So we got to interact a lot with other people from different countries, live in the Olympic village. And then that was the Olympics where there was an attack. And a lot of people asked me whether I was there, and I actually was there. The Olympics tends to be 1 week certain sports and the next week other sports. The competitors are there for their sport and then they leave. And I was leaving the morning after the attack occurred on the Israeli athletes. I didn't live through it, I would have to say, as much. I just, there was a change of a lot of presence of police and army there when I was leaving the Olympic Village. But still, an Olympic Village is a world apart, so it was a really good experience, I have to say. My first paying job was at Iowa State. I worked my way through undergraduate at Iowa State at the library. So I had a section in the stacks. I had to keep it organized, and it was actually the agricultural section, which was fun. But I spent 3 years in that library, got the job the first semester that I started my undergraduate. I've enjoyed agriculture all my life, really enjoyed farms, and I grew up with farms, and studied an agronomy, animal science, double major in Colombia before I came to the U.S. And I was managing my parents' farm because they had left Colombia for a while. I thought I would enjoy working in agriculture at a slightly different level than at the farm level, simply because the countryside in Colombia is very male-oriented. We have a lot of machismo, and at the time I thought, well, I better look at a different way of actually being involved in agriculture. So of the classes that I took, I enjoyed nutrition the most. And so I applied to different universities in the U.S. And before coming, I actually visited several, Texas A&M, Wisconsin, Iowa State, Virginia Tech, Gainesville, Florida, and actually ended up applying to only 2, Wisconsin and Iowa State, and Iowa State answered first. I wanted to do more dairy. That was my interest. My parents had a dairy farm. I took poultry nutrition my last semester because I couldn't fit dairy nutrition. and I met who became my major professor. At that point, I actually was going to do a master's in ag econ because I had a double major, a second major in economics that I really enjoyed, and I had already gotten in for a master's in economics. And then I took poultry nutrition and really enjoyed working with Dr. Sell. We had to do some experiments in that class, and he offered me an assistantship, and that led me to poultry. I was going to go back to Colombia and work after my master's, but at the time Colombia was going through its worst, most dangerous time. And Dr. Sell had expressed a desire for me to stay at Iowa State and do a PhD, so I actually stayed for a PhD. And as I was finishing up, I think he was asked whether he had anyone for a job that was opening at a Purina Mills in research and development. And so he gave them my name, and I ended up finishing up really quickly, writing my dissertation in about a month and starting a job pretty quickly. In industry, you have some limitations in terms of where the company wants to go and where the company wants to put you. And even though I was in research, monies would flow back and forth, and you would start projects, and they wouldn't end up getting changed. So the opportunity came up. I got a letter to apply for this job, and I thought, well, can't lose anything by applying. Never thought by that point, after 9 years, that it would be easy to come back into academia. But it has been a super decision. I think overall I'm moderately proud of almost all of the research that we have done. We've done, since I've been here, we've focused a lot on environmental issues because that's the position that I have, but I enjoy it because it marries my environmental interest with animal agriculture that I believe in, so it's putting those two things together. My focus has been to try and be as good as I can be in one area rather than be mediocre in a lot. So my strategy has always been to try and do things as well as I can and focus in specific areas. I have to say that I love research. I've never changed my mind on loving research, and I love the hands-on part of doing research. So I'm not an office researcher. I enjoy the animal work. I actually enjoy going out and working with industry, actually visiting farms all over the world, as well as feed mills and processing plants, because it allows me to bring back the challenges that industry is having and try and figure out how best to do research that will translate well to them. My major professor was a key mentor for me. He's the reason I am here. He was instrumental in guiding me to become the scientist that I am. There were some amazing scientists at that time. Ed Moran, who's still working today. Hank Clausen was actually somebody that I looked up to. Mamdouh Sifri was also somebody that I respected very much, and was somebody that worked in industry but maintained a sense for the science and was very applied in a scientific way. I was lucky in the people that were there at the time that I grew up within my educational experience in poultry. Love what you do and do it as well as you possibly can. If you love what you do, you never have a job. You're actually living and enjoying your day to day. And for me, that's the difference. If you love what you do, you're passionate about what you do, and it shows in the results, I believe. Finish what you start. Everything you do, do it well. If you can't do it well, don't do it. I think we've seen a lot of changes, but probably every generation will say the same thing. Changes towards more environmental consciousness, towards trying to minimize a little bit what the perception is of too much genetic change. And in the time that I've been working in poultry, actually poultry has become the leading animal protein. I believe poultry will continue to grow, even though probably aquaculture may be the protein of the future. But poultry will be there for quite a while, mainly because it's so efficient in its conversion. But I think we are going to be seeing some changes, and we will have to adapt as poultry scientists. I think production methods may change, the challenges on genetic improvement, and then antibiotic-free is going to change the way we manage and produce any animal agriculture. And in chickens, because we have such a dense population in certain areas, it will be more of a challenge. I never thought I would be in this position. When Dr. Sell received the award and was named a fellow, I thought, this is mainly for people that have had a superb career, been very influential to poultry science and to poultry production or nutrition. But I never really thought that would be in my history. I would still want to continue to be involved in research, because it really is something that gives me a lot of joy, and I think you have to make choices that make you happy.